Welcome to the Doggy Dojo. I'm your host, Susan Light, a Los Angeles-based dog trainer on a quest to become worthy of the title Sensei of the Doggy Dojo. Today we're talking about sustainable living with dogs. My guest has a Master's of Science in Environment and Natural Resources and an undergraduate background in biology and psychology. As an avid dog lover herself, she believes that dogs and sustainability aren't mutually exclusive. After rescuing her own dog, Boba, she was shocked at the absence of sustainability information in the dog community, so she took it upon herself to help provide it. Please welcome Briahna Hendey. Briahna, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to talk about sustainable living with dogs today because I feel like this is a topic that a lot of people care about, the environmental impact of our pets, but nobody's talking about, strangely.
Yeah, I think that there has just been a general absence of real dialogue on the subject. So that's actually kind of what led me to want to talk about it to begin with. I just didn't see it being talked about anywhere else. Because I do think it's something that so many pet guardians do care about. They just kind of don't know where to start.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking of where to start, what are the environmental impacts of our pets that we should be aware of?
Yeah, so there's a lot of them, but if we're just broad strokes, kind of overview, if we're looking at dog food, they are omnivores, so that's a lot of meat that they're eating. And in the US, they're responsible for about 25 to 30% of all environmental impacts related to protein being raised.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot. And that's not even looking at the other things that are going into their food, but that's just kind of protein impacts. And then you can look at the what follows that food, which is dog poop. So dog poop itself is an environmental pollutant, and it's classified, I think, in the same category as oil, as far as environmental pollutants go by the EPA.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So it's not great for the environment by any means. It's filled with harmful bacteria, and it's really rich in nutrients that pollute waterways and lead to all other sorts of not good things for the environment. So picking up your dog poop is always the sustainable thing to do. But then that leads to waste for those of us who don't necessarily have yards where we can just for those of us who don't necessarily have yards where we can just kind of scoop up the poop into a trash can. So if you're like me and you live in an apartment, you unfortunately have to rely on dog poop bags. So that's a whole other discussion of impacts. And
I think that's probably the only one that people really think about.
Yeah,
it's the poop bags.
The first thing that people always ask me. It's like, oh, dog poop bags. And I mean, they're important, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of just scratching the surface of sustainable living with dogs, if you will.
Okay. So food, poop bags, and anything else?
Yeah. So one thing that's actually a huge thing in dog Instagram is kind of doggy fast fashion. Obviously, like, you need some gear for your dogs. Like, you need a well-fitted harness, a collar, whatever, leashes. But there's this, I find it to be a very strange cultural phenomenon of people having multiple outfits. We're talking like dozens of outfits for their dogs. And
yeah,
I mean, they're probably made in sweatshops like 99% of the time, and get the environmental footprint that goes along with that. And I mean, I see these videos, reels and what have you on Instagram of people showing off collections of literally hundreds of collars and bandanas and all of these things. And there's an environmental footprint attached to all of that. So definitely something to think about as you're scrolling through Instagram.
Really good point, because all of that stuff that's like so adorable, and so everybody is like, I need that. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, I get sucked into it too.
It's hard not to.
Collar, but yeah, you just see it. It's like, oh, it's so cute, and then I am still reminding myself, like, no, he doesn't actually need that. You know,
Yeah,
this one collar is good. But it's a
Absolutely.
struggle because we're going up against a lot of marketing that is strategically made to want us to buy that sort of thing. It's adorable. It's
Yeah.
I'd be remiss
Tons.
to say it's not.
Yeah. But I think also like for me, I don't have kids. So I
Mhm.
think a lot of us start to treat like our animals as our children. And, it's the
Mhm.
same with having children. Everything's so cute and there's so much of it. And there's just like, you can't stop buying it.
Oh yeah, definitely. So one thing that I've really had to think about with my own dog is how am I humanizing him, Like am I actually meeting his needs or am I wanting to buy him something because I think it's cute? Because a lot of the time, so if we're going back to clothes, it's not really serving a purpose for the dog and it can actually be detrimental to their own health in very real ways, whether it's thermoregulation or restricting their mobility and what have you.
Mm.
So unless if you
Or
live,
just stressing them out
yeah, just
if they don't
stressing
like
them out.
wearing it. Yeah.
It's very stressful for them. So unless if you live in a climate where, like I live in Montreal and jackets are very necessary for a lot of the dogs that live here, and that's totally like good. But I remember living in LA and seeing people dressing their dogs, and it'd be 100 degrees out, and it's like, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah. Yeah. I have seen a lot of dogs here in LA with dye jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like hair, like their tails are dyed and stuff like that. And I don't know the environmental impact of that, but that's part of that culture, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the problem. It's so cute.
Yeah, it
They're
gets you,
so cute.
Uh,
Yeah. But so I love that perspective of let's understand our dog's actual needs.
hmm
Because you're in Montreal, they need a coat. If you live, I lived in Vegas. Dogs in Vegas need shoes because the pavement is so hot
Yeah,
that they can burn their feet. So, little bit here, we want to make sure that people don't think that we're suddenly saying this is all bad. None of this stuff should exist for dogs.
yeah, absolutely not.
Some dogs need these things in certain situations, and that's why they were created. That's why they exist. But yeah, let's talk about what your dog actually needs, and if sustainability is a priority for you, what are some options you can make to
Exactly.
move more in that direction?
And along those lines, I kind of want to be intentional just in framing this entire discussion. It's never my intention to guilt anyone related to any of this. We're all just people trying to do our best. And I'm learning as I go too. So definitely don't want any
Yeah.
shame attached to any of this discussion
Yeah.
for any listeners.
So hopefully people understand this is coming from a place of if this interests you and it's a priority for you, we're going to talk about some ways, because honestly, I had never really thought about the environmental impact
Mhm.
of dogs having 10 handkerchiefs that they wear.
Yeah, and I mean,
But yeah.
there's like ethical impacts too, and that's something that really weighs heavily on my mind with all of this. Just from an environmental perspective. Like I went into studying the environment thinking like I would just be focusing on the environment, but then as get more and more into it, you realize like these are real people being implicated. So now whenever I buy anything, I'm like, oh no, where was this made? How was it made? And I, it's really like fundamentally changed my relationship with consumerism. Um,
That's awesome. And
yeah.
I know part of the problem is sometimes it's hard to get those questions answered.
Yeah, it's very hard. And I mean, I try to be an informed consumer, if you will, but the transparency for most things is just not there, which makes it really difficult. And it is frustrating to navigate the marketplace, especially in the dog community,
Oh, yes.
because there's so little information unless if you're going to very reputable brands. And even then, it can be a little difficult to tease out what they're actually doing and saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So let's go back to our dogs they need food.
hmm
So that was on your list. And they need to eat meat, right? So I know a lot
Yeah.
of people are vegan and vegetarian, and maybe they don't eat meat themselves because of the environmental impact or because they, are animal lovers. But it's not, how can we deal with this issue with our dogs? Because they need meat, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, they are omnivores. And at least at this point in time, I don't know of any vegetarian diets that have been formulated to actually meet all of their nutritional needs from the studies that I've read from reputable, like scholarly sources. It seems like most of the time they end up deficient in some key nutrients. So I mean, this might change with technology. On the human front, we've got some cool things coming out, but for dogs, I don't feel comfortable feeding a vegetarian diet. I know that there are insect-based diets that are coming out, which are interesting. They're a bit pricey from what I've seen, so I know that they're not accessible to everyone, including myself. But I'm
Yeah,
interested
that's
in them.
kind of a problem too,
Yeah.
is sometimes this new stuff comes with a much higher price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But luckily, I mean, maybe not luckily, but in our current systems, there's a lot of meat being produced, and a lot of it goes to waste. Because as Westerners, we don't tend to eat all parts of the animal, but that doesn't mean that they're not nutritious or like perfectly safe to consume. So I think changing kind of our relationship with dog food, because right now a lot of the marketing and what have you is always promoting human grade this and that and whatever. Uh, but we don't need to be competing with our dogs for a steak, if that makes sense. Like they're going to be perfectly happy eating very nutritious parts of the animal, like liver and what have you, that would otherwise go to waste.
Yeah, I love that. And we make dog chews out of a lot of things like,
Yeah.
bones and skin and ears and things. So, yeah, that's such a good point to use all of the animal. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. Um, like I
Yeah.
know,
Wasn't it like a ears and snouts like campaign against like what it was like hot dogs and bologna? Everybody was like, it's all the garbage parts of the animal, right? I don't eat hot dogs or bologna myself, but I remember hearing that. But
yeah, it's so funny to me because like byproducts are really demonized in pet food marketing. It's like, oh, don't eat byproducts. But then if you actually like look into the definition of a byproduct, it's basically like the most nutritious parts of the animal for the dogs. It's organs and whatnot that are filled with great things. And
yeah,
I
they
mean,
need organ meat, I
yeah.
think.
And
Yeah.
like things like tripe, like, I mean, I'm half Mexican. I grew up eating menudo, which is filled with the same things. And in that context, it's fine. But for some reason, like for feeding our dogs, it's like, oh no, we can't feed them that, even though it's perfectly good. It's safe. And the AAFCO, which is kind of a gold standard for nutritional requirements in the US, like they're very clear. Byproducts are perfectly safe for dogs to eat.
Awesome. So how do you find out, like you could just instead of throwing away if you are like butchering a whole
Mhm.
chicken or something, but how would you know the food you're buying is using byproducts and is more sustainable?
Uh, I think it would be listed in the ingredients. And so, living in Canada, it's also, if you look at the back bag of dog food, it'll say whether or not it meets AAFCO uh, feeding standards for nutrition and maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have that, then they'll also have to say what exactly is in it. So, byproducts has a pretty specific definition, and I'm
Okay.
blanking on
So
it.
if it says
Yeah.
like beef, they mean muscle, like beef that
Hmm.
we would eat, not other parts of cows,
Yeah.
not the
So
byproducts.
if you
They'd be
go,
listed differently.
yeah,
Okay.
precisely. And if you go on the AAFCO's website, they have it all broken down by category so that you know exactly what is meant by beef or poultry meal or whatever it happens to be. They're all very technical definitions, and you can go on there and see what is in it, and they kind of give you more information related to it as well.
We're going to take a quick break, but you can find Briahna and all the amazing sustainable pet content she creates on Instagram at Boba the Sustainable Mutt, which is linked in the show notes. We'll be right back. Okay. And then poop, obviously, pick it up. We have to
Yeah,
pick it
pick up
up.
your poop,
I
please.
I mean, I'm pro picking up poop regardless, but I had no idea that it was so polluting. That's horrifying.
Yeah, it's so polluting. And I mean, right now it's just a mess here in Montreal. Like, so many people don't pick up their dog poop in the snow, and it's so gross. It's all melting
Oh,
right now,
yuck.
and it's just like melty, nasty landmines everywhere. So I really wish more people would pick up their poop.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yes. So pick up the poop, and if you have gotten yourself convinced it's that poop bags are bad for the environment, and so you're doing someone a favor by not picking it up, not true.
Yeah,
Debunked today.
yes, pick it up. And honestly, I am very empathetic to people not necessarily having extra funds to invest in, certified compostable poop bags. This is a bit of an aside, but please avoid biodegradable poop bags. They just turn into microplastics. So if you are in a place where you can buy certified compostable, not biodegradable poop bags, that's fantastic. If not, it's still better to use just traditional plastic poop bags and picking up your dog's poop,
So it would be first choice compostable, second choice regular, and avoid biodegradable.
Yeah,
because it's actually worse than regular plastic. Okay,
it's horrible. It's just a case of
sounds good. It sounds good. Biodegradable.
Yeah, it does sound really good, and they normally smack some nice green packaging on it, but in reality, it's just going to turn into microplastics. So save your money and just get the regular ones. If you have extra funds, get the certified compostable ones. They also have paper-based ones. My dog Boba's pretty big. I'm a little reluctant to try the paper ones. I want to, but
I've picked up some big dog poops that I've been like, even this plastic's not thick enough.
Yeah,
like
he often has 2 baggers. I'm like, oh man.
Yep. But okay. And back before, and what we're talking about is also a single-use plastic, but before the single-use plastics were basically, I'm in LA, we've almost completely gotten rid of them here. I would say that's, the old saying, remember way back when, reduce, reuse, recycle, reusing any kind of bags that you got from the grocery store, or do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If it's going to go in the trash, at least you get a use out of it.
Yeah, it's all going in the trash anyway, so might as well try to maximize your usage from it.
Yeah.
And
love it.
You save money if that's a concern too, so.
True. Almost always. Well, not, like you said, the fancy, products, maybe not, but yeah, a lot of things that are good for the environment are also good for money because you are reusing, repairing, recycling instead of just going out and buying new.
Yeah, just simplifying in general. I think that that's kind of the key to sustainable living. It's hard to sort it out because the marketing surrounding sustainability is always oh, buy this eco product. But in reality, what you have is going to be way more sustainable than anything that you would buy new. In most cases.
Wow, so true. Wow. It goes back to everything being marketing and confusing because my mind is being blown right now about the biodegradable poop bags being bad. Just mind blowing. So it's so hard to navigate.
It's really hard and it's just not regulated. So, whenever possible, I try to look for certifications and I don't really know of any that are specific to sustainability in the dog world, but, there are a handful of companies in the pet world that are certified B corporations and that type of thing. So definitely looking for certification so you don't have to do all of the groundwork on trying to figure out whether or not something's more sustainable. It definitely simplifies.
Yeah. Okay. So there's poop bags. And then if we go to the accessories, like you said, you need a leash. I have actually seen some places making rope leashes out of climbing ropes, retired climbing ropes. So that's an awesome initiative going on. What other kind of ways can we be more sustainable around the accessories?
I think
other than just not buying our dog 12 outfits.
Looking for things like that. Yeah. So I know of a few places that are doing the climbing rope thing, which is so cool. If not natural fiber, so they can at least compost after.
Good point.
Or honestly, just going on Facebook Marketplace or KGG or I don't know, whatever your most popular used marketplace is where you live. There's so many things that are basically brand new on there that I see all the time, whether it's harnesses from good brands, leashes, whatever. There's a lot of gently used dog products available.
Yeah.
Pretty good prices too.
Such a good point. I would like to see people, and I have encouraged puppy clients of mine because I'm always being like, oh, they need this thing. Like, it's a lot of things that they need to like chew on and things. And sometimes you buy something here, your dog doesn't even touch it, to like make friends with other people with puppies so that you can swap these things, because like everybody has something that their dog has never touched or doesn't care about. And instead of throwing it away, you can donate it to an animal shelter. You can swap it with a friend. You could sell it on Facebook Marketplace. I've seen some people do, now this, if you can't find someone local, this would involve obviously like the gas of shipping something, but I've seen people do toy swaps online. So like you meet somebody on Instagram and you each pack each other a little box and send it to each other just to swap stuff new to your dog. And it doesn't go to waste or get thrown away.
Yeah, I think that's really a key thing, just if you're not using it, find somebody who will use it. And I have toys for Boba that were given to me by a family member whose dog just wasn't a fan of them, and he loves them. So it's been really nice to kind of give them a second life. And you could just get creative with it. And
because it's so individual. Like I've recommended toys based on certain dogs and like some dogs will love them and some dogs just won't care.
Yep.
And so it's nice not to let it go to waste that way.
Yeah, exactly. And especially for puppies, I'm thinking of just like harnesses and what have you, and just growing dogs. It's pretty difficult. So if you can find somebody with a dog a bit older or a bit younger and trade and exchange, it's pretty sweet for a few reasons, whether it's environmental or for your wallet.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, having a dog is a great way to meet people. And, I just think that's great. You can meet people at puppy class and swap things around, and fantastic. I love that idea.
Yeah, it really is a great way to meet people. I mean, I moved here mid-pandemic, and Boba has helped me meet a lot of people here that I otherwise would have never met. So dogs are great for so many reasons. And it's part of the reason why I wanted to bring topic of sustainability into the dog world, because I have seen other books and what have you that are basically like, oh, dogs are bad for the environment, cats are bad for the environment, we shouldn't have them. And I don't think that is a fair approach. Dogs do so much for our well-being, and I think sustainable living should be centered around well-being. I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. And so it's kind of just striking that balance,
I mean, they've shown all kinds of studies that having animals improves your mental well-being in so many ways. And I think it's been proven, like, you have to get up and feed them and take them out, which gets you out of bed when maybe you wouldn't if you were very depressed. But also, like, I do think you get to meet other people, and other people, in that positive way, improves your mental too. They're amazing. Dogs are awesome.
They are. And I mean, it's just really fun having them in our lives. And if you're interested in living more sustainably, like, you can definitely do it with a dog.
Because it's all about small steps, small decisions, right? And like, you don't have to go live in a yurt and not have a car, but you can make these choices, and little by little it adds up.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think any of us need to like change our lifestyles overnight in order to have like meaningful systemic change. I mean, you're a dog trainer, so you know how behavioral change works, and it's not through like huge changes like right away. It's gradual and it's manageable, and same principles apply to humans.
Yeah, you had a great post about that on your Instagram recently about, like, you can get burnt out, so don't worry about like trying to do it all at once. Just make one decision at a time, and it's such a good point.
Yep, just being gentle on ourselves, and again, like, not falling into the guilt trap surrounding sustainability. Just do what you can, feel good about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you bringing a lot of these things to my attention. Like, a lot of them I just literally had not considered from the eco standpoint.
Oh, well, I'm happy to talk about it.
Thank you, Briahna, for joining me today. My biggest takeaways from this conversation are: you don't have to be all or nothing when it comes to eco-friendly. Any steps you choose to take towards being more sustainable are positive, so start small. I also am really shocked that the biodegradable poop bags are actually the worst option because they dissolve into microplastics, and it continues to shock me how difficult it is to navigate good choices in the pet industry. So make sure to check out the resources and information Briahna has put out there. Her Instagram is linked in the show notes. Thank you for stopping by the dojo to learn with me this week. This is your aspiring sensei, Susan Light, signing off. You can find me at doggydojopodcast.com, or I'm Susan Light LA on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. The music was written by Mac Light. You can find him at maclightsongwriter.com. If you like the show, you can support it by subscribing, sharing it with your friends, rating it, and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another new episode of the Doggy Dojo.